Hey, this is Alan with GameLark, and I'm joined by Dr. Ortiz, the leader and creator of Mariachi Entertainment System.
What's up, Alan?
How's it going?
It's going well, man. How about you?
Thank you for joining me this early morning.
Yeah.
So let's get started. How did you start playing mariachi music, and how long have you been playing it?
So I started playing. I think I started playing mariachi music professionally like 10 years ago.
Okay.
I was trained classically in high school and college, and I started to have the need for money. My roommate was real heavy into mariachi, and he got me into it. And I think I wouldn't have done it if I didn't really like it. It just kind of caught me like a fever, and I think that happens to a lot of people who don't necessarily start off didn't grow up listening to mariachi, because I didn't grow up that way.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even speak Spanish, so those are things I've had to learn. I've had to learn repertoire and a whole other language.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's been about 10 years.
Okay. And for those of us who don't know, myself included, what exactly is mariachi? Is it a certain instrumentation or arrangement? What's the technical definition for it?
You know, this is a question that gets debated among even mariachis on a regular basis. What is it and what does it mean? I guess in the simplest terms, it's a symbol really of Mexican culture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I think Mexican people would identify as something that runs in their blood. Now, realistically, literally, the instrumentation of a mariachi is trumpet, violin, and then the rhythm section are the indigenous instruments. Those are the big bass, the guitarrón,
mm-hmm.
And the vihuela, which is another indigenous instrument. And then a regular classical guitar. That's the those are the Spanish, the string instruments are the Spanish influence or whatever.
Mm.
So that's kind of the instrumentation, and it's changed throughout history, and it continues to change. They started with harp, and it was harp and violin when it kind of started out, and they've added more violins, and then they've added they made the guitarrón to kind of make it a little bit more portable than the harp, and just adding instruments. And it used to be one trumpet, then they added two, and now the standard is 3 trumpets. Mariachis have grown to these huge 15-piece ensembles, and it's getting a little out of hand. But that's what a mariachi is. They wear the charro suit, which is the back in the in the times of the Mexican Revolution. It was basically the uniform of the owners of the haciendas.
Mm-hmm.
All the shiny gala that they have on the side, it's kind of a symbol of wealth. Back then that stuff was hard to make back then. Now they have machines that just press it, from aluminum or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a symbol of wealth. I don't want to say like a cowboy suit, because I think culturally a cowboy is a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's basically, and so we refer to the ensemble as a mariachi. The individual wearing the suit and singing and playing is a mariachi also, and so that's my little definition, I guess.
Okay, that's awesome. And there's a lot of history and culture behind it, is what you're saying.
Right. Yeah,
awesome.
it's a lot.
And
yeah.
And you played professionally as a mariachi player, correct?
Yes. Yeah. I started off, with my one little group, and since then, kind of branched off into the kind of freelance market.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to manage yourself that way. And mariachis are definitely, at least in San Antonio, this is the market that I know. Mariachis are renegade musicians, man. It's not I think that you may have seen a lot of cover bands, or not even cover bands, just bands, that they get together and they play, mariachis somehow aren't like that. It's just when's a gig, I'll be there.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter who you are, renegades to the bone.
So it sounds like you fit in well, and you enjoy the mariachi culture.
I love it. I don't know that I fit in. The language is kind of a barrier for me. Not so much in the sense of being able to speak, but there's this thing inherent to Mexican culture, and they have a name for it. But what it amounts to is a double entendre.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that a Mexican says to you means 2 things. And to them, it's in plain sight.
Mm-hmm.
They pick it up like that, and I'll get the literal meaning every time. You know, I don't have a problem with that. I can communicate with people. But then, you know, they'll say something and I'll be like, I know that, but then they're laughing at the same time, and I'm like, I don't know what your other meaning is. You know, you know. So and they're quick, and they would say that that's something that's part of their culture, that double entendre. But other than that, you know, I think I fit. You know what I mean?
Awesome. So how did you come up with the idea for Mariachi Entertainment System?
So I think that a lot of most mariachi musicians are, you know, it's your life. There's 1 billion mariachi tunes that on any given Friday or Saturday night, people are gonna ask you for, and it doesn't even matter if it's mariachi or not. They just, I don't know, they think you're like this magician that just pulls songs out of nowhere, you know. So your lifestyle has to be involved with that, and always, you know, learning as many songs as you can for your whole life, you know. And within that, all mariachis are always thinking like, hey, you know, when they have leisurely time to sit back and listen to, you know, whatever other kind of music they like, all mariachis are always like, this would sound cool with a mariachi, you know. And I don't think that I'm any different in that regard. But the other thing that I would say that maybe might be different is that I always thought that the stereotype of mariachi, like, I don't know what other people think when they hear the word mariachi. Like, there's some imagery conjured up in their head, and I'm not sure I know what that is, but I know it's not right. Like, it's not it's not what I see, you know? And I didn't like that. I didn't like that, you know, people might hear the word mariachi and think, oh, you know, some fat guy in a suit drinking, you know, singing all out of tune and playing all out of tune. You know, that's what we see a lot in the media. And, you know, it's like a joke. Whenever you see a mariachi on TV, it's like a little gag that they're doing, you know? Yeah. There's never like this regal presence that I've come to appreciate from the mariachi. And I didn't like that. And I thought, well, here's a way to like do my take on mariachi music and video game music and reach a whole other new group of people that otherwise might not ever know and would never have that idea like, oh, mariachi is actually cool, you know? So that's how it started.
How did you recruit the members?
I started, I wrote out this tune and I was so afraid that it was just going to go all wrong. And I had been like accumulating recording equipment for years and I never did anything because I was just so terrified. And finally I took a chance. I had some people that were very close to me and that I could trust. And I kind of did like whispered to them and I was like, hey, you know, just come around my house and read this music. And I didn't tell them what it was, you know? And they were like, okay. So they came to the house and, you know, like, and actually it took weeks. It took months to get, you know, just to find people like, and it didn't matter who they were. I was just like, you know, just come and help me read this music and we're going to record it. Like, okay, I don't care. And then slowly, you know, I managed to get lucky enough to find people who really like it, who really, really, you know, they are gamers as well. You know, Doomsday and the Viking and Gilbert, they're gamers like to the bone. So I've managed to find them just through the mariachi circuit, you know, that exists here in San Antonio, and I've been really, really lucky that they stick around and put up with me. So
awesome. And so speaking of your covers, and one that I found particularly great was the Metroid cover, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So to me, it seemed like there was kind of 3 parts to the song, and each part added something different. Like the beginning is kind of not what I wouldn't want to say what you expect, but it's you know, it just sounds like a mariachi arrangement of Metroid, right? And then you added in the choral parts, which you said you did yourself,
right?
And then the ending with the violin. I think that was Doomsday that was playing violin. Is that correct?
No, that's Lotus Blossom, and Amy. They were playing violin.
But anyways, that's one of my favorite covers, just because I'm such a fan of Metroid music, and hearing it in that new and exciting way was just beyond cool. So could you maybe pick like one cover of yours that you're particularly proud of and why you're proud of it?
So it's funny that you say that, because Metroid would be like the one that probably tested me the most. It remained like, I don't know what people might think of this, but it's the hardest thing like I've ever done in my life. That cover.
Mm-hmm.
Because my brother and I were huge Metroid fans, and my brother loves the music, and we're very close. And he was like, he's watching me do this. He's like, "Why haven't you done Metroid? Like, I'm your brother. Like, I should be able to make a request, and you do it, And I just thought, this music is just so wrong. It wasn't written like the idea when it was written was that it's very space-like and otherworldly, and so the harmonies that they use are not like they're not fun. They're not conducive to this like style of music, this mariachi,
Right.
And it was when I first thought of like I'm gonna do Metroid, I was just like, yeah, you can't be done. Like this is ridiculous. And my brother kept pushing me. He's like, you have to push yourself. And so I started, and it just sounded awful, and I was like just kicking myself, like why did I? And here I am, like a week away from we need to put out a video, And finally I finished the arrangement. I started calling in everybody, and and Adrian, the Mexican Viking, was he'll tell you about this if you ever meet him. We were in the recording studio, and I had some tracks recorded, and he starts laying down the bass. And I picked up my headphones and I just threw them on the ground, right? And he's playing, and he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Just whatever. I don't care. Just record it. Just play the notes." And he's like, "I was until you threw down your head." It sounded awful to me, It sounded so wrong, and somehow, we managed to just get through it, and it ended up coming out okay, and it ended up coming out better than okay. And then people told me that it has this Western feel, and that was something I never intended.
It definitely does. That's why I liked it so much, especially the choral part. When I heard that, I was like, this sounds like you took what I consider to be like Metroid has a very isolated sounding soundtrack, which is why it's tough to arrange for mariachi, I can imagine, because it's isolated and spacey and otherworldly, and you're putting it into like something familiar and lively, and somehow you're like, oh, what if we took this and just kind of made it like a Western? Because Westerns also have themes of isolation, right? They have heroes wandering out into the wilderness and like man versus nature type of ideas or themes. So I guess you accidentally made a great cover. No, I'm just kidding.
I never thought of it that way. And then like I sent it to my cousin. My cousin's somebody I respect tremendously as a musician.
Sure.
I sent it to my cousin. He texts me right back, and he's like, "Man, I love the Western feel." And I was like, okay. Like I didn't think too much. And then other people started commenting. I was like, I guess. I mean, I'm not here to tell you no, that's not what I meant or whatever. It's just weird that to like make something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you were like in a wood shop, and you're making it like a table,
Mm-hmm.
and so you finish this table, and somebody comes up and goes like, "Man, this sawdust is really, really has a really great texture,"
Yeah.
And you're like, "That's not the thing that I made." And then people want to come buy your sawdust, It's just like this byproduct of this other thing that you were making, and you were like, "Well, I guess now I make sawdust,"
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was definitely welcome, but it was also a surprise. I think that's what I'm getting at.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about the future of MES. Now, you've mentioned on social media a couple times and posted some videos of Super MES, and you also have a Kickstarter going on right now for a second album.
Yeah.
So, can you talk maybe about those things real quickly?
Super MES. So Super MES. Fortunately, we had the cool name that somebody thought of. I remember the guy's name. It's Syed Arash Hassanizadeh. I remember because I practiced saying his name for 2 days. He's one of my Patreon patrons, and he came up with the name Mariachi Entertainment System. I was like, I love it. So it kind of became fortunate, like the Super MES thing kind of followed. Because my thing is that like when we record, I track 8 violins, even though we have one person, 3 trumpets, the whole rhythm section with harp, but there's only 5 of us at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way I would go out and want to play live with 5 people,
Right.
I don't even like doing traditional mariachi with 5 people, Like it just sounds empty, I mean, you can get really, really good players. You know, you get a really good, strong violin player, and you get strong trumpet player. You know, just so much missing. You know, when there's so few people, and so Super MES came. Like, I wanted to sell the idea, like we're gonna be like 10 people minimum. You know, and like I said, fortunately, everyone in the group has. Man, you know, they went to rehearsals, and we worked it out to play a live show, and. You know, I couldn't pay them anything. You know, I don't need money to be paying musicians. So, you know, pretty fortunate that they did all that hard work for me and listened to me. I don't know why they listened to me. Like, I'm nobody, you know, but they listened to me and they respect me enough that we were able to get that done. So that's been really cool. Hopefully, we'll get to do another one soon. You know,
the live show you're talking about?
Yeah.
And it went really well.
You know, the response was really good. The response was tremendous. A lot of people really, they came up to me and they all night, you know, after the show, they just coming up to me all night and just telling me things that you never expect. You know, we drove down from Austin, we drove from Houston, and I'm so happy. You know, it's totally worth the drive. And you know, I've been watching your videos for a year and all this kind of stuff. And so it was worth it, and it was positive in that sense. But me as a musician, you know, I wrote every note that got played on that stage. So you know, that's all I hear.
Yeah.
You know, all I hear is like, oh, this is not happening. You know, like, okay, this is going well. This is not going so well. So, you know, my feeling about being on stage, you know, I wish, you know, we had a very short time to put together a show and it went well. You know, it's one of those things like, I wish we could do this, like another show, you know, like just want to make it better, you know. So hopefully we'll get a chance to do that.
And then the Kickstarter for the second album?
Kickstarter. So Kickstarter came about because part of that funding, you know, hopefully if we get accepted to MagFest, which I put in my application, you know, will help us get funded to go there. The second album, you know, I really want to explore some new stuff. You know, I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface. You know, and so that's another weird thing that people say, you know, like, oh man, they sound so great, and I'm like, you know, we're not there yet. Like, there's new things still to be done. Like, there's some stuff we haven't even tried that's unapologetically mariachi and that you're gonna love. If I get it right, everyone's gonna love it. If I get it wrong, well, you know. But that's the point of the second album, and hopefully we get to do some Squeenix tunes. You know, a lot of the tunes that people have been requesting Sunset Riders. You know, hopefully get to do that. Some more Mega Man. You know, and the new one I think is going to be a lot of fun. We're investing in some new equipment, and I think the new one's really going to be I felt like with Terra, the last tune that we did before, you know, that one was like, I finally felt like, okay, this is scratching the surface. You know, like now we're getting somewhere, and so I feel confident moving forward that we can do some really cool stuff that I think people aren't expecting.
Well, awesome. And if any of you viewers are fans of Mariachi Entertainment System, there's a few days left to support them on Kickstarter. There's some great rewards. I myself have already supported them. I'm getting that beer mug and shot glass. So check it out. There's a full video as well explaining some more about the Mariachi Entertainment System as well. But thank you very much, Dr. Ortiz, for joining me.
Thank you, Alan. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you all for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.